This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA.
Welcome, everybody. You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warrenshaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Our special post-NBA All-Star Weekend podcast, and quite a NBA All-Star Weekend it was. Kudos to the city of Chicago. Kudos to Chance the Rapper, and to everybody that was involved in really pulling out all the stops and making it a spectacular All-Star Weekend, and to kind of break all the festivities and things that went down from NBA All-Star Night, Saturday night, to the NBA All-Star game that just took place. Let me go ahead and roll out the red carpet to my All-Star, my legend I've been rolling with for so long, my PNC, Mr. Warren Shaw, repping out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Holla back at me, Mr. Shaw, as we're burning the midnight oil tonight after a very competitive NBA All-Star game. First, your thoughts of Miami's full representation during All-Star Weekend.
Well, listen, man, that's something we're going to actually have to get into as a result of the dunk contest.
Are we going to talk about that other Italian job?
Yo, fam. But
yeah, we will talk about that.
Fallout is out of control. But I mean, overall, my thoughts on the weekend is shouts to Chicago, as you alluded to, the NBA, making the best of a unique and difficult situation, obviously with the Kobe Bryant passing and David Stern passing. And I think everybody kind of came together to make the weekend extremely special. I'm sad it's my first All-Star I'm missing in I think the last 5 years. But in general, man, it was just great to see all the things that came out of this weekend. So a lot to get into.
Yeah, definitely a bunch of stuff to get into. And, we will, this is one of the few opportunities or the few occasions where, we don't try to sit down and come up truly with a format of, the topics that have, come from NBA All-Star Weekend. But definitely there are things that we certainly, kind of want to put a little bit of weight, put a little lean our shoulder a little bit into over what's happened through the course of this weekend. I mean, certainly, I think the biggest buzz that took place was the NBA All-Star Saturday night and the slam dunk contest. And, I definitely, for me personally, I just have a more unique circumstance about what I saw from that. I think everybody's perception about this, Shaw, was, Aaron Gordon got completely robbed of winning his second slam dunk championship, and really at the expense of a great slam dunk display by Derrick Jones Jr. And I know that's going to kind of be the highlight. And once again, the NBA can't get out of its own way in its attempt to revive and sustain the viability of what used to be one of the most popular and sought after events during NBA All-Star Weekend. And I just, what, Shaw, let me let you go ahead and say your piece about what you feel from this, what you saw from this, because I know I'm going to have something to say about it more than anything. And I don't want to get too long-winded on it. So I'm going to let you go ahead and first give me your impressions of the slam dunk competition, the fact that, 4 competitors and it came down to those 2. What was your thoughts about how everything, transpired over the course of that night?
Well, at the end of the day, I think looking at how the contest was judged throughout, and, listen, D-Wade being a judge in a competition where a Heat player is there is a little awkward. And then Chadwick Boseman being a part of it is a little awkward even in that of itself as well, too. But maybe they didn't think it would be as controversial as it was going to end up turning out to be. But neither here or there, that's where it came down to, right? And at the end of the day, I think Aaron Gordon, by the way it was being judged throughout, I don't think every dunk he had was a 50. I wasn't impressed in that way. I don't think every dunk Derrick Jones did was a 50. But as they were 50s like candy, then it became a little bit kind of ridiculous to see it go the way that it did. And he had an excellent point. Whatever side of the fence you're actually on, Gordon had an excellent point. It's I have 4 50s. why is this still a situation? That's what he's saying. He's like, I have 450s, and Derek Jones Jr. To that point did not have 450s. Then it goes into another round, and whatever agreement the judges had, and whether it was Wade or Pippen or whoever, didn't stick to the proverbial plan to kind of have that third, not necessarily that dunk off, but where the judges would just go ahead and pick a winner. It turns out now that Aaron Gordon, in essence, it gets kind of victimized and is robbed of this. And at the end of the day, it doesn't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of it. But the one thing I'll say before I turn the floor over to you, my dude, is that I am stunned at the literal outrage that Orlando Magic fans have. It is like they have been robbed of a championship with this dunk contest. And the way Heat Twitter is responding and back to, it's just like, I've never seen anything like it over an exhibition that really means nothing at the end of the day. But these two organizations are like legit fighting, 2 days after the fact. This is still going on. Like really, really, really salty things are happening. And I'm stunned and mystified by it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I feel for Aaron Gordon, I really do. But it shouldn't be what it has become on NBA Twitter. But overall, man, I think it was a good competition. I like Aaron Gordon's. I think whatever that was, 360 thing off the side of the glass, probably the best. And Derek Jones' tornado dunk was probably my second favorite dunk of the night. But what do you got on it, man?
Well, everything that you said, I think, was going to help me shorten my soliloquy. Okay. But I said I was gonna have some things to say about the slam dunk contest, last night after watching it. And this was one of the few occasions that I had a sincere interest in watching the slam dunk contest. I think partly because Dwight Howard decided he was going to come back and participate in the slam dunk contest. And I wasn't so much hoping for him to, kind of relive his a la greatness, back when he was in Orlando Magic participating in the slam dunk contest and the great competitiveness that he had with Nate Robinson. But what I was expecting from Dwight Howard was a fierceness in the way that he displayed dunking, which I thought is what has gotten away from my enthusiasm for watching the slam dunk contest. I think there's been way too much emphasis on the finesse aspect of things and, the style. And, and a perfect example of that is here you got a guy like Aaron Gordon, who I'm thinking after he does that one-handed 360 windmill off the side, which I don't think has ever been done. And I think by all accounts, that should have been a wrap. Like, I think that if the slam dunk contest had stopped right there, nobody would have argued if they had given the trophy to Aaron Gordon over Derek Jones at that point, Derek Jones Jr. Okay, but they decided that this had to keep going, and whatever the case may be, fine. The fact that he comes rolling out there with the TikTok girls and this TikTok dancing, and I'm thinking, okay, is he going to jump over these guys? He just has them dancing in the middle of the floor before he goes and executes his dunk. And this is what I mean. Like, this is what sullies, the people's love for what they used to care about when it came to the slam dunk contest. That there was too much emphasis in the entertainment aspect of things and not in the execution and the intensity of the competition between the two guys. There was less of that at times, the more that they had to continue into the dunks. So that's one thing that I just want to, get off my chest. And I was just really disappointed that Dwight Howard made this too much about his dedication to Kobe and not really going out and just being Dwight Howard, like the Dwight Howard that we've come to respect, the first half or the first part of this NBA season, the resurrection of D12. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't understand what he was trying to do in the slam dunk contest, but I'm not going to knock him for it. I just felt like I was hoping to see more of it. Like, I would have been probably expecting it to be D12 and Aaron Gordon before Derek Jones Jr. and Eric Gordon. But nevertheless, we got a great finals matchup between those two. But I'm going to say this because I don't know how many times that it cannot be said. You cannot have a fair judgment of, if you're going to have judges, and I don't care if people say, oh, you shouldn't have judges. It doesn't matter to me. If you are going to have judges, you cannot have a judge who is or was formerly a part of the team in which the competitor that is out there competing is playing for. You cannot tell me that there is going to be impartiality when one of the judges basically was one of the most legendary players for that same team that he's out there representing. That is absolutely asinine. And it just lends credence to what I just don't understand what they were thinking when they put these judges together at the expense of trying to put emphasis and highlight, again, the Slam Dunk Championship is the last event, not the 3-point contest, right? Or maybe not even the skills competition, which seemed to have had, a lot of hype and intensity there. I get why you put the Slam Dunk contest at the end, but I don't understand how you put this in place. And then you have Common, Chadwick Boseman, Scottie Pippen, Candace Parker, and Dwayne Wade. Like this, it was like a TNT fix for judgment. You know what I'm saying? And it just absolutely corrupts people's appreciation for those who want to see a true slam dunk championship. And it was funny because people were just kind of pussyfooting around, not really getting into the heart of the matter. Oh, well, why didn't Aaron Gordon win the damn thing? Oh, I'll tell you why. Because Dwayne Wade gives his own player of the team that he formerly played for a 10, and then gives Aaron Gordon, who jumps over a guy who's 7'7", who comes down maybe 7'5" because he bent his head maybe partially on a two-handed dunk. He gives him a 9. If you don't want to look guilty, then you should have given that dude a 10 and put it on the rest of those guys to give 9 so that we could be calling them out for their quote unquote, let me not say this to be mean, their incompetence of properly evaluating the dunks. But to your point, Shaw, they were just handing out 50s like it was water. They giving it away like Christmas. And I'm just like, it's now at this particular juncture where you choose now to find some criteria, some degree of difficulty that they didn't meet for you to now lessen the idea that because of this one dunk, this other guy winds up getting it. And it's just absolutely remarkable to me, man. Totally remarkable. Like this, again, another opportunity for the NBA to shot put the Slam Dunk Championship back into the conversation. But now it's been shot put into the conversation for all the wrong reasons. And we're going to be talking about this again come next year because we're going to wait and find out for them to find another way for them to screw this thing up.
Well, I'll touch on 2 quick things. Again, if anybody hasn't seen, I think it's Worldwide Bob, he always changes his name. His investigative report video on Wade and what was happening there, how basically he is the one who went against the grain, changed that. But your initial to change the scoring, if you will, and I got to get back to that too in a little bit. But your initial point about the player. I think my issue is that it's one thing. I mean, Scottie Pippen is a former player. Candace Parker plays in the WNBA, and she's got a great relationship with a lot of, obviously, NBA guys as well, too. But Wade literally played with Derrick Jones Jr. last year. Literally. That was his teammate just last year in post-retirement. So the affinity and closeness to him is a little – it's not a little. It's just it's awkward, and it doesn't make for impartiality in the judging process with that. But then to go back – to the earlier point now, when you're thinking about this, so they had at some point decided that, well, we're no longer going to even be judging these dunks fairly or impartially, so to speak, or partially, I should say, right? They had then, Common comes out and tells Ramona Shelburne, well, we had agreed that after Derrick Jones dunked, that whatever Aaron Gordon did, we were just going to give him a tie. Right? And then Wade is the one who goes against the grain and doesn't do that so that they don't end up having to pick, because then he realizes if it's just based on that, Jones is not going to win it based on all the other things that Gordon had done. Right? So to me, that's a bigger issue in this whole thing, is that they had already decided now that we're going to start fixing the scores. And then one judge decided he wasn't going to go along with that plan anymore.
Hence,
so
did you see?
Hence,
did you? Well, not to interrupt you real quick, Shaw, but hence, did you see the tweet that I put out there that this was basically like, the Trump impeachment, where the senators who are supposed to be impartial jurors are already coming out giving what they were going to do anyway, which was going to acquit the man, right? Yeah. Without even hearing all of the evidence. So in essence, like coming out and speaking in front of someone before the next person's dunk or before that round is completed or whatever the case may be, you have already made yourself a biased juror or a biased judge of what's going to happen. And I don't see how you're expecting me to look at you with impartiality over that. It's asinine, totally asinine.
Yeah, it was rough. Still entertaining, and it's sad that it ended the way that it did. So Aaron Gordon now gets robbed, by most people's accounts except for Miami fans.
It is pretty rich though that the Orlando Magic fans are like up in arms about
outrage.
I was like, maybe you should be outraged that the Miami Heat is the best team in the Southeast.
Magic 8th in the Eastern Conference, not having quite the season that they would have hoped, but in general, what has resulted in this, and even us spending as much time as we have on it, because it was interesting. You know what I mean? I was entertained, and I'm even entertained by, I guess, the post commenting. But I think some people are taking this very seriously. Like, it's not just commenting or like to kind of give like a little rib. Like, they're like serious vitriol, as I said before, as a result, Orlando and Miami fans specifically. And it's crazy to watch.
Well, good. Maybe that'll just kind of pump up the quote unquote rivalry that really should take place between these two. Listen, it's about time that we start seeing these teams find something that's going to give them a little bit of an edge to them. Now it may not be personally between, because I know that there's mutual respect between Gordon and DJ Jr., right? But I do think that if it's going to be on the fans, and this is what it's going to take, for them to feel a little sense of edge, in their games and supporting their teams. And, hey, if we're not going to make the playoffs, we damn sure don't want to see the Miami Heat feeling comfortable where they are in the playoff picture, whatever the case may be. There's a level of pride that just needs to be placed. I'll at least give, Orlando Magic fans that much, because listen, man, they've been very skittish when it comes to the support of their own stars. So, in this particular case, and a guy like Aaron Gordon has always been on the fence. Like, it only seems like they love him when he's dunking, right? I don't know.
Like a couple weeks ago, so it's.
But I'm just saying, it's like, it's interesting to me, Shaw. Like, you would want to hear more noise, when it comes to the Southeast representation of the players that play for either the Heat or for the Magic.
Well, I mean, again, living in the area, I mean, I guess I'm seeing it maybe more than maybe other people are. There's tons of stuff coming out already. I mean, it's already crazy. So, Jones Jr. and Bam talking about, hey, this is our first 2 trophies of the season. We're going for a bigger one, later on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they are not just focusing on disrupting or dissing the Orlando Magic. They are excited about the fact that 2 of their guys were there, and the Heat had, was it 6 guys or something like that represented throughout the course of the weekend, or something crazy. I mean, because Hero was supposed to be there, Kendrick Nunn was there, obviously Jimmy Butler, Bam, and Derek Jones Jr. So there was Heat players everywhere in Chicago, in addition to all the conversation about Wade. And that's part of the reason, and I forgot to mention this earlier, but it's because it's Chicago why Wade was really everywhere on the scene of this All-Star weekend. He's a hometown guy. He's obviously done an immense amount of community and charity work in the Chicago area, being from there originally. And that's why we saw him just kind of in everything, every aspect of All-Star Weekend, he was touching it. But there was a little bit of a miss with the dunk contest there, especially with his closeness and proximity to the Heat organization and one of the contestants, Derek Jones Jr.
All right, man. So I've aired out my grievance about that part of it. Let's quickly talk about, before we get to the All-Star game, let's quickly talk about Buddy Hield. Is this his coming out party after what we saw from him in the 3-point contest?
I don't know if it's a coming out party as much as, he just is going to continue to try to convince the Sacramento Kings that he's a guy. Right now, Sacramento not having an amazing season, a lot of conversation about their future came out right before All-Star and Vlade and whether he's doing a good enough job and then if the ownership is still happy with him. If he finishes out the season, will he make it into the summer and go into next season? And that's not seeming as likely as it maybe what some would have hoped. But he was a big part of that, and he openly has gone against Luke Walton, with some of their disagreements, and now coming off the bench. But he's responded well in that role. So I don't know if it's much as more coming out party as he just wants to prove that hey, he's a legitimate and a viable 3-point threat. And he's just going to want to get the minutes. And I think he's going to be able to perform in that Sacramento system, no matter who the coach is. At the end of the day, though, he still has to be happy. And if they end up choosing Bogdanovich over him, like truly, which it seems like they may be leaning towards a little bit, maybe that's a situation that doesn't go the way that Sacramento wants. But Hill is a guy who can definitely shoot it. And he spent, his 4 years in Oklahoma and honed his craft. He's gotten better every single year, and I was happy to see him go out there. Obviously, us being West Indian cats here, seeing somebody from the Bahamas go in here and capture the flag, if you will, was pretty amazing on my side.
Yeah, first of all, I was thoroughly impressed with Buddy Hield's performance. Listen, this could have easily been Devin Booker's moment, right? And not to say that, it would have elevated Devin Booker anywhere beyond what he's already done for himself without having to be a part of the NBA All-Star festivities. I think what this does, though, it culminates there being more than just us talking about Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Joe Harris. There's some more guys, in the mix that I think are going to be some quality shooters. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if they're going to be able to. I think because we're still in the era of Steph Curry, I think everyone is looking for that next guy to come right in and do something phenomenal from a shooting perspective. And don't let these guys have one, their moment, and two, give them a platform to build off of. So, we've talked about how Buddy Hield has struggled, to make his mark, because we said when he came out of Oklahoma, man, we said, this kid, if given an opportunity, I think he's going to do something really good. I think he's going to be a quality shooter. We're not saying he's going to be a superstar. We don't know if that's going to be the case because we don't know where the NBA is trending, where the way that he plays his game is going to fit and is sustainable. But when he gets these opportunities to do these type of things, there's that window. And if you're playing on a team that clearly needs a shooter like Buddy Hield, he will find a place. Right now, whether or not, to your point, he stays the man or is going to become the man out there in Sacto, I think doing this now and the way that he did it, basically coming from behind and then coming down to that clutch shot over a quality star, virtual star in Devin Booker, I think bodes well for a guy like Buddy Hield, and he should take that with him. And I think it was great for the NBA. Once again, another quality performance from the 3-point contest. You know what I'm saying? Which, it's sustainable, right? And so I really enjoyed seeing the way that game, the way that contest played itself out. Two guys that clearly came in shooting the ball well. They didn't kind of back themselves into that final round. It came down to that shot, and he came up clutch. I liked it. I like the way that the flow of it, and the fact that Buddy came out of it, man. And I'm very happy for him.
I think great points there. For me, it's interesting with Booker because remember he wasn't supposed to be here. He's a Damian Lillard replacement, pretty much in all aspects, 3-point contest, and even within the All-Star game itself, if you will. And he's a himself in Booker, and I think it was pretty good the way that he acquitted himself. He tried to act he wasn't upset or salty that he, I guess, wasn't originally supposed to be there, whatever the case may be. But he showed improved, and it was very exciting to see Hield kind of take it there on the last shot. Interesting tweaks to the format, adding the 30-foot shot with the Mountain Dew. I think that's the NBA just being acutely aware of the times that we're in with guys who can really launch from serious range. And it it was kind of seamlessly put into the competition. I think it was only Joe Harris who kind of forgot it was there for he was coming around the first time and it's like, oh yeah, let me jump back here, and he ended up missing that shot, but then he went and nailed the next time, on the other wing. So overall, I think that's a nice added touch to it. Yeah, it's not traditional and things like that, but nothing about this weekend needs to be traditional. It's an exhibition, so all the purists just don't need to have such stringent views and a stranglehold on what the All-Star Weekend used to be. And I think this format really played itself out well. And Buddy Hield, getting the win here over Devin Booker, especially in that fashion, definitely made the 3-point contest, I think, the highlight of the All-Star Saturday night.
All right, now let's talk about Bam and his victory over Domantas Sabonis. Listen, man, you've talked about how Bam, by leaps and bounds, has really elevated himself to being one of the featured big men out of the Eastern Conference. I feel like he's taken another step to being the Miami Heat's modern day Udonis Haslem. And it's interesting to see that, Haslem is still there and is basically, he's got him like, I'm trying to think of the, I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to remember the movie. It's not coming to me, but basically, he's coaching the little one, you know what I'm saying? But bringing him up in his likeness, tough-minded baller, but offensive game far better than what Udonis was able to do during his NBA career. There's more upside, I guess, is the way I'm putting it. But this was Bam's weekend, man. To do the things that he's done, he is again elevated. It started with the big cat a couple of years ago, but here again, Bam Adebayo has solidified the idea that this skills competition is not just about who's the quickest and the guy being a guard. I mean, the big men are coming out here and are ultimately proving that those extra 7-8 inches on whoever, it means nothing to them if they execute in the same way that most guards do in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, we're just seeing in an era where, the big men are extremely skilled and they can do what the little guys can do. Unfortunately, little guys don't have the same luxury to go down there and really kind of post up and really kind of bang away and grab rebounds in the exact same way that it translates if you're big with who can dribble, you can shoot it and pass the ball as well too. So congrats to Bam, and the fact that he's in there against Sabonis, I think is huge. Sabonis upsetting Jason Tatum in the earlier, I think was probably one of the bigger surprises of the evening. And then seeing Bam going out there and
for some reason I felt like Tatum didn't take that thing as seriously as I
maybe not.
But not to take away, Sabonis went and did what he needed to do. So
So to see the both of those guys shooting the 3-point shot pretty easily was great. And seeing that, and I would.
It's either that or we're going to see new NBA rules that they're going to start extending that damn 3-point line again. So.
No, you never know. But again, that to me, that competition it's a great primer and warm up for the rest of the evening. It's not boring to me, at least, and it's not really drawn out. And to see that the big guys can go out here and compete, I think is a special place for me, because it continues to show the evolution of the NBA players in general. So it's just not a small ball game anymore when it comes to skill competition.
You're tuned to The Baseline. Callie Warrenshaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Our post NBA All-Star Weekend wrap up. Callie Warrenshaw here. All right, so let's go ahead and get right into it. All-Star game. What are your thoughts?
Overall, my dude, we're all on NBA Twitter, especially for the fourth quarter, and just saying, wow, this format has truly worked. And I'm not going to sit here and just blow smoke up our listeners' butts here. I think the first couple quarters were a little bit pedestrian in some ways. It was a typical all-star game. You're just kind of like ho-humming and, all right, you get a cool dunk here and there, and not a whole lot of defense played. But that fourth quarter was something special. It was, it was competitive. They all invoked the Mamba mentality. They're complaining and bitching to the referees. Guys, Kyle Lowry's out there taking charges. You're seeing some guys fold under the pressure a little bit. I hate to say it, but Kemba Walker didn't seem like he was having the greatest moments there. Layup, had some turnovers. So it was everything you could want an All-Star game to be, especially in that fourth quarter specifically. And I think it was a great culminating point end of the weekend. Obviously, I'm not too familiar with the logistics of what they were trying to do ahead of Kobe Bryant's passing. If a format similar to this was going to be in play, but if this is kind of what was a result of that, I mean, I think it's, and again, I can't even say that with a straight face. I think it's a nice mark for the NBA to see that this went well, given the changes that they made in lieu of Kobe Bryant's death. But overall, like I said, I think it went over very well, and people are happy about it and saying, you know what, this is a format that they can buy into for years to come.
All right, so I'm going to separate this in two parts. As far as the tributes for Kobe Bryant, for David Stern, I thought were excellent. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't drawn out. The execution was great, and I was really surprised by Chance the Rapper's, performance. He really, really, really made us feel Chicago. I'm a little leery of Shaka Khan's national anthem singing, but outside of that, I thought that the performances, like, I love Shaka Khan. She's one of my favorite, performers, but she was a little too much of that, during the national anthem. I thought that she could have just kept it a little bit more simplified, but she was not as bad as Fergie. Okay. So we'll leave it at that. No, and I love Fergie, but everybody knows that she just did a horrible job doing that national anthem rendition. Anyway, Chance the Rapper's performance was just spot on. I really thought that maybe Common would have been the best suited person to do something, because I just feel like he's always embodied, the Shy in such a way where there's that balance of poetry and music and culture. But Chance just, I find it hard pressed that anybody would have been able to put together the kind of performance that he did. And it was just so well thought out, and it was great. Common's intro for the guys, I thought, was excellent. It was a great twist. And, I'm not saying that he should do it every year. I just, if he did it again, I wouldn't mind. So I thought it was really nice to add that nuance to it. I felt that this was one of the few all-star, like the introductions and everything surrounding it from an entertainment value perspective really represented the city as well as All-Star Weekend, the culmination. We do this all the time, Shaw. We've had people on our shows who are people who are influenced by what the NBA does for them in their culture, in their fold, and they exude it in the way that they develop a sneaker, or they develop a clothing line or something like that. And I've often said that the thing that really bothers me is that sometimes the NBA All-Star Weekend is just about the players at times, and completely misses that it's about the city that they're representing, and I didn't see it over the last few years. I thought that was something that was kind of missed. This, they got it right. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I want to know and understand Chicago in about 5 minutes or 10 minutes or a halftime show, they figured out a way to do that. And I was just completely in awe of that. And I appreciate all of those performances that went into that part of the game. Now for the game itself. It's kind of funny, man, that it takes all of these rule changes for us to assume that this is what has now suddenly turned the corner for players to take this thing seriously. I'm sorry. I completely disagree with that premonition and that notion. Okay? While the rules changes are cool and everything like that, that is not the reason why this thing became as competitive as it did. I tweeted this during the NBA All-Star game tonight, and I'm going to keep saying this until maybe, my tongue falls out my mouth. The reason why this NBA All-Star game was watchable was because of Giannis Antetokounmpo, okay? I don't know if people were really paying attention to this, because nobody was really talking about it, because everybody was all up in talking about they start from zero for the, each quarter. And then they do the TBT style where, they only add 24 points. There's no shot clock. So it's the first team to the target score and all of that good stuff. Yeah, that's all great. That's smoke and mirrors to me. The reason why the NBA All-Star Game tonight was as competitive as it's been in almost some 20-something years is because there is finally a player who, in a time where we lost the last person with that same grit and mentality of being competitive, he went out there from tip and had that mentality, and until that game ended, had that mentality. All it takes is one sometimes. All it takes is just the intensity of court play before somebody says, oh, Giannis is serious about this. I can't let him show me up. You know what I'm saying? Then all of a sudden, LeBron James now wants to take it seriously. It didn't need to be about a kid's charity for LeBron to suddenly take this thing seriously. It became when Giannis basically looked at the rest of these other stars who are taking this lightly, who are kind of going through the motions, and then realizing that they're going to get their shot blocked by Giannis. They're going to get his gonads upside his forehead on a two-handed dunk. Then all of a sudden now, there's a level of pride that kicks in. There's a level of showmanship that kicks in. And suddenly, this doesn't just even become about the score. It becomes about how many opportunities do you want to leave out there saying that Giannis was the man when it was all said and done, especially in a time when we lose one of the greatest competitors of our sport, of any sport, right? This was because of Giannis Antetokounmpo. People may think I'm crazy for saying that, may think I'm off base, but if you watch the way that he was carrying himself from the beginning of this NBA All-Star tip-off, before the game even began, his whole mentality was about, I'm out there to compete and to win. He didn't even talk about the kids. I don't even think he knew what his charity was until the girl, the TNT sideline reporter mentioned it to him. He was all about going out there to be the MVP, to go out there and do what Kobe used to do. And I am so happy that there is finally a player who gets it, because that to me was the turning point in us even talking about why we question why there's any competitiveness to this. What is it going to take to incentivize the players to want to compete? And to me, it usually comes down to themselves. And finally, there was one guy who wanted to step outside the norms of what we usually see from NBA All-Star Weekend to get the rest of the crew to go out there and compete on that same level.
I think there's definitely validity to what you're saying. I think I would just disagree in things that I think a lot of people took that on, and because of the weight of the moment and what has happened, obviously in recent weeks in the NBA. So Giannis is a tone setter in some ways. I think LeBron had it for the most part as well too. I think Chris Paul, when he came in the game, had it initially. Kawhi came out here firing on all cylinders. So yeah, I think there's a lot of guys who understood that this game for the fans and maybe even for themselves just needed to be different, and played with a certain level of respect and tribute to the one Kobe Bryant. So I gave all of them a round of applause. I was again, I think Chris Paul is probably my most surprising performance. I mean, obviously he had that crazy alley-oop catch, and I think there was a report on Twitter saying that he changed his whole diet. He's on this vegan thing right now, and that's actually has changed his life. And he's been able to get up here a little bit here and there and playing some of the best basketball in recent years for him. And then again, as I alluded to, even Kemba played well, especially early on, and again, already touched on Kawhi. And there's some things about this game, though, outside of the competitive nature, that it's interesting, because I feel like if you were really trying to dissect it with the competitive nature, well, it was still an all-star game, still an exhibition. And then if it was truly trying to win, I guess in some ways, I think Nick Nurse could have made some different decisions, for Team Giannis. The decision to play Trae Young, I think it was 10 to 12 minutes, something like that. And Kyle Lowry got, all those minutes. Well, Lowry was huge, and drew charges and things of that nature. But neither team subbed in that fourth quarter. Like, those guys pretty much just wrote it out. And I felt like they could have used some substitutions because they were tired. And I know the starters there, with the exception of Trae Young. That's the whole reason why those guys played as many minutes as they did. But I think there were ways that each team could have probably what's the word I want to use? Could have just impacted their winning a little bit better and executed had they did some substitutions and maybe played some of the matchups a little bit differently. But overall, still a great performance in general. And your earlier point about just the city of Chicago being represented, 100% agree with you there.
Yeah, look, again, this is just my personal take, my personal feelings. I'm not saying that those guys didn't compete. I'm just saying that there is something that is happening right now when Giannis comes out to play. And I don't know if guys they're not going to say anything about it, because you never want to admit to something like this, because then it feels like, his weight, his aura is starting to weigh on your mind, right? LeBron is great. He is a master at suppressing whether or not there's a sense of intimidation there, if there is a level of caution there. And you're not going to do that during an NBA All-Star weekend, right? And I'm not trying to get into NBA psychology of things. What I'm saying is that this isn't just because it's Kobe, I think, is what I'm trying to say in what your point was. And I'm not saying that what I want is for you to say, oh, I get where you're coming from, Cal, you're right. That's not my intent. I think where I was getting at was, at first I thought maybe in a way Giannis is just still young at this and he's new to this and he just really wants things so badly. No, I really think that Giannis wants this so badly and really just doesn't give a damn, right? Like, he doesn't care that it's Kawhi Leonard and Anthony Davis and LeBron James on the other side. If you listen to his comments before before the All-Star game itself, he's like, I chose guys that I felt like we're not being represented. Like, they, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is an opportunity for them to go out there and do something. He's like, I wanted guys out there that are just passionate, just want to go out and win it. It wasn't like he's trying to slight the fact that the guys that LeBron have got are superstars, but you could clearly see LeBron is getting guys that he has been comfortable with. He's getting his crew, his fraternity together. And Giannis is like, I want the the Bulldogs on my corner. I want the guys that are growling for the bone, you know what I'm saying, rather than just giving it to somebody because that might be the bigger dog. So that, to me, is what I'm sensing from Giannis, and it's not a fluke. It's not, just TV talk or Twitter talk or whatever. This is Giannis's mentality, and I'm saying this is something that we should start to appreciate, because this is why people are going to want to be watching for the NBA playoffs come April, May timeframe. When it really matters, there's going to be another mentality that probably is going to be shown by Giannis Antetokounmpo. And the fact that we're seeing it just in something as called as an exhibition game, to your point, Shaw, speaks volumes about the mentality that a Giannis Antetokounmpo can have with even guys who want to be competitive, but still don't want to be like, I'm not breaking my neck for this. I just want to make sure that I show people the passion that I still have the way I want to do it, even if it's for an All-Star weekend.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot to be said about Giannis's selection process. Clearly, LeBron had the higher level and bigger name superstars on his team, and not like Giannis didn't have the opportunity to do that. So your point in that regard, I think, is definitely well taken, where Giannis wanted guys that were probably a little bit maybe underrepresented, and he wanted to lead them or give them an opportunity to shine themselves. And hey, they almost got it done. I didn't think it was going to be as close. Again, given it being an exhibition, anything is possible. But I just felt like the talent level on Team LeBron was probably going to make this a walk, on their side. But it ended up being a competitive game in general. And to the public and all the NBA fans, and again, Adam Silver is probably over there licking his chops, like, yes, glad to see this work. And if they decide to do it in this same format next year, then we'll see what that lends out to be as well.
All right, man. So with that being said, I think the only other point that I wanted to make was whether or not this format is gonna hold for the next few years. I mean, it might, if it's successful enough that, it's got the TNT analysts to be saying, I love this. And if they believe that that's what's gonna, keep this thing viable, sure, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it because more so it's to the point that the emphasis is on the charitable works, and that the communities and the kids that the focal points for why you're doing this, if that is incentivizing, more viewership, if it's incentivizing more marketing, if it's incentivizing, more for things that is not necessarily focused on the players per se, but more on the players' efforts to build up those things, I'm completely for it. I don't know if I completely buy that this format is going to hold over, for the next, several years or whatever the case may be. I'll give it a couple of years, and they're going to have to, again, they're going to continue to keep doing this where they're going to assume that they got to keep changing the format to keep it fresh and everything like that. When at the end of the day, man, when you have a player-centric league, it comes down to the very essence of the people that you ask to make you the ton of money, that you're asking them to make a weekend game, an exhibition game, to take it seriously. And I think at some point they just are going to need to sit down and really just be real with what is it going to take for us to say this is going to be a viable product for entertainment purposes, to make the money that it makes, so that you can go out there and do it at 100%, just like everything else that you do to make the money that you make. And we'll see what happens. I'm not completely sold on it totally, but again, it was a great show for all it's worth, and it went over splendidly.
Wow, man, again, way to be the Debbie Downer on this one, but I kind of agree in terms of that.
I wish you wouldn't take what I'm saying as like it's being completely so negative about this, man. It's like I'm just being a realistic person about this. This was a success, man. It was an absolute success, but it ain't gonna hold for 10 years. I'm telling you. It's not.
Nothing with this does, and that's as long as Silver is here, you're going to continue to see that be the case. So, again, the whole weekend is up for debate each and every year. They may change the rules a week, 2 weeks before, just because they can. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's as you said, it's for entertainment purposes only. This format is going to be what it's going to be forever. You're right. It's not going to be that. But I think it is going to hold for the next couple of years until some people feel like it gets stale, or you end up in a blowout that doesn't really matter. It's like, all right, well, what do we got to do next year to make it better? But I think overall, like I said, the weekend itself was a success. Still some tweaks they need to do in general. And we'll be having this same conversation next year, same bat time, same bat channel, regarding the NBA All-Star Weekend.
All right, my sir. So a couple of other points to highlight over the NBA All-Star Weekend, I think that is worth noting. One, congratulations to Scottie Pippen. He was provided as the Legend of the Year award, and much deserved. I think it works perfectly. And I don't know if you had an opportunity to catch the highlights. I think Steve Oshburr, is that how his last name is pronounced? He's legendary writer for NBA, covers the NBA, and is a legend. Is a legendary writer for NBA.com. He kind of highlighted the speech that Scottie Pippen gave in acceptance of his award, and it was a really great speech. And I think, again, this is another opportunity for the National Retired Players Association. They did a hell of a job with their award ceremony and the brunch, and then again, it just comes down to all of the little things that take place during All-Star Weekend that isn't necessarily on the court, right? Or doesn't always reflect, our current NBA players, that are having an impact on the success of the league's ability to, again, continue to outreach and still help build up the brand, of the NBA. So I just wanted to make sure I give a shout outs to Scottie Pippen on winning that award over this weekend.
Great call there too. And then we have the finalists, announced for Hall of Fame. Obviously, Kobe, Timmy, KG leading that class. of guys that will assuredly will be going in, coming in August. So All-Star Weekend really lending to some great content in general, and conversation around the association, not just the exhibition over the course of the weekend, but some of the more meaningful things, that honor some of the game's greatest players to ever play the game.
Most definitely. One last bit of news before we, shake and bake ourselves out of here. It sounds like the Beilein tenure of being the head coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers might be coming to an end by the end of this season. There has been word through the Athletic, that the Cavs and I'm sorry, say again.
And Woj as well too. Woj has maybe a little more even deeper report. Yeah.
Yep. That Beilein is talking about stepping down from being the head coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers. What more can be said? I feel bad a little bit for the Cavaliers. I feel bad for John Beilein. People have respected John Beilein in different ways. Clearly, he is a jaded, reflected head coach. I think part of the problem is whether or not people truly bought into the fact that what he did in college basketball will translate to him being an effective head coach in professional for the NBA, or professional basketball league. And if that's the case, I just don't think that would have been a fair assessment, given the fact that he's only been at it 1 year. But he certainly did not help himself with some of the controversy that, he created, with comments made, with the way that he handled Kevin Love, and I don't know how you can go into another season without figuring out a way to have gotten people past that. And it doesn't look like, out in that area, be it that I don't know if whether or not everybody else in the NBA really cares, but in that area, maybe more so, it seems like it's still a sore or sour topic. And I think when you still have young players in which you have to consider the futures for, and you also are going to have potential draft picks, if it's not working out, then you got to have to nip it in the bud. And this might be the best course of action, for both entities that are maligned, by the controversies of what's happened so far this season.
I think the biggest part of it, again, is what Woj ends up saying, is that it might be unceremonious. Like, he may decide before games start again at the end of the week on Thursday, Friday. He's using this time to evaluate a situation, and he may end up stepping down, or the team may end up come to a mutual parting of the ways. Either way, it doesn't seem like he'll be back next season. If he finishes out the year, then that'll be just what it is, and they'll look to reassess what ends up happening. So I think he signed with a 4 or 5 year deal, kind of similar to Brad Stevens coming out of college and jumping into that. The Cavs are hoping to strike gold, like kind of the Celtics did, and it just hasn't worked out. So whether he finishes the season or he's gone by the end of next week remains to be seen. But Cleveland's definitely looking for a change in the head coaching position coming soon.
Well, let me say this though, Shaw, and maybe you buy into where I'm coming from. I think, to your point, I think he's going to be gone by the end of this week. It's just hard to imagine that you're going to let something like this leak, and players are going to see this, and you really think that the players are going to be trying their hardest, are going to be playing their hardest for Beilein for the remainder of this season? I can't see it. And I can't see how you're going to justify that for people who actually want to continue to see Cleveland Cavalier games being played with all of this happening. I think that if the intent is that he really wanted to see if he was going to hold out and still coach through the rest of this year, that this would not have gotten leaked. Okay. And it's not to say that Wojnarowski is not as stealth as they come in finding the information and dropping the Woj bomb. You know what I'm saying? This is hardly really a Woj bomb. I think we all expected that there was probably going to be a serious evaluation of Beilein being the head coach at the end of this season, given everything that's happened. But the fact that this is even getting leaked, and it's not even just Woj talking about it, it's all the other major outlets all looking at this saying it's not a question of whether or not he's going to do it. It's probably going to happen. The fact that we're finding out about it now just lends credence to the idea that it would be in the best interest of Beilein to step away before the season starts, because you do not have the you do not have the whatever you have left of that team is going to be with you for the rest of that way, and it will just be an utter embarrassment for him and whatever his coaching future is going to be, and it's just going to leave the rest of those players maligned. You do like what the Knicks did. Go use the interim head coach play card, put that on play for the rest of the season, and then just chalk this season up as an L.
Makes sense to me. Really and truly, I think the Cavs there's no definitive direction right now of the moves that were made pre-trade deadline. Still curious at best. Well, again, why I don't totally hate the Andre Drummond signing or trade, I should say. It does put them in a weird timeline, I guess, that they're trying to figure out. But a new coach, if he's coming in, needs to get in, start to implement a system so that the Sextons and Garlands of the world can figure out, how they're going to fit into within that system. But as you alluded to, maybe they're not making that decision immediately. So if it's someone that's going to just be an interim to the end of the year, just to kind of get it out of the way, then I don't know if it makes a difference one way or the other. So Cleveland definitely in a state of flux. And hopefully, especially for the young guys, they can figure it out soon. Because again, Garland, Sexton, even Cedi Osman, guys out there, they want to figure out kind of what it is that they need to be doing within this Cavaliers system and how they're going to play a part in the team's ultimate success.
All right, man. Well, awesome show all put together, man. I'm glad we had an opportunity to catch up after NBA All-Star weekend. Still a lot to be said. The games don't start until the end of this week, but man, it's looking pretty good right now, man, with the way things are shaping up, and we got to keep our eye on the prize, man. It's going to be fast and furious in the home stretch for the rest of the season.
As always, it definitely will be. And, we'll be here to capture all the action. We hope our fans and listeners enjoyed All-Star Weekend. Getting back to the regular business of the NBA at the end of the week. Lots of great content coming up. I'll plug myself here real quick. We head into some of the Dwayne Wade retirement stuff in Miami. So some great content I should be able to get for you guys coming to that as well, too. And just, again, can't wait for the ball to start, man. It's going to be a rough couple days here with no basketball to watch, but we'll get through it, brother. We always do.
Most definitely. Once again, we'd like to thank you and yours for hopping on board with us for our exclusive NBA, our post NBA All-Star Weekend wrap-up for The Baseline. Callie, Warren Shaw, we appreciate you guys. We do. We'll catch up with you next time.